As President-elect Donald Trump gets ready to take the Oval, the media landscape could see a serious shakeup. I wonder now, as your father is assembling his team, as maybe Caroline Leavitt is looking at the new press briefing room chart, maybe it's time to reorder that chart, maybe take away some people's seats. We had the conversation about opening up the press room to a lot of these independent journalists. Like, if the New York Times has lied, they've been adverse to everything. They're functioning as the marketing arm of the Democrat Party. Like, why not open it up to people who have larger viewerships, stronger followings? Joe Connie is a Fox News contributor, and he joins us now. Joe, I can actually see this happening. I mean, why not open up the briefing room to podcast hosts and independent journalists? They mentioned Joe Rogan by name. Maybe he'll get an invite. I don't know. I don't know if he'll show up. Maybe once. But why not add chairs into the briefing room and get more people in there? Yeah, Carly, and I don't think you even need to add some chairs into that room. It's quite small. But overall, Joe Rogan probably wants to still do his podcast down in Texas. If you want to bring in Megyn Kelly, for example, maybe she doesn't want to have to go all the way down to Washington to ask questions. We could ask questions the way we're doing this now, where you have the technology to join a press briefing from anywhere, anytime. The first Trump administration, when Sean Spicer was press secretary, did just that. They did bring in folks to ask questions via Zoom that normally weren't part of the White House correspondence. So I think he'd be very well served to shake up this room because only Peter Doocy and Jackie Heinrich, it seemed, asked the kind of questions that made the White House press secretary uncomfortable, because that's the job. And what we saw this campaign was horrific from legacy media. I mean, Don Jr.'s right. I mean, this includes CBS and their moderators. Remember, they cut off J.D. Vance when he was fact-checking them correctly, so they shut off his mic. CBS, when they had Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes refusing to release the full transcript of that interview after they were caught editing it. ABC News doing 11 fact-check and follow-ups of Donald Trump during that debate. Kamala Harris got 0 fact-checks and follow-ups. And then overall you had something like 85% positive coverage of Kamala Harris from the media overall, while Donald Trump's was equal in terms of being negative. Bring in these other folks. Let's hear some real questions and use technology that we have in 2024 where they can do it right from their home studios. Life is good. If Andrew Schultz and Theo Vaughn get White House press passes, I'm all for it. I'm here for it, baby. Meantime, the chair of the Harris campaign is calling out the claim that Vice President Kamala Harris was scared to do interviews. Listen to this. Being up against a narrative. To have interviews is completely, and also took hold a little bit. And we just gave us another thing we had to fight back for that Trump never had to worry about. But numbers don't lie. When VP Harris started her campaign, it took her 38 days for her first solo TV interview. Joe, what's she talking about? We used to count that down, right, those days. Wait a minute, she's the nominee and 38 days go by and you're not even going to put her in front of Rachel Maddow or The View, or just some friendly outlet just to hear her speak outside of a teleprompter. That woman that was speaking just there was Jen O'Malley Dillon, all right? And she has run major campaigns before, but for Obama years ago. And now for her to go on there and actually say, you know what? We thought it was a better idea for Kamala to go on Call Your Daddy over Joe Rogan. And they got what? A fraction of a fraction of a fraction of views that Donald Trump got by going on with Rogan. First 5 weeks of the campaign, we don't hear from her at all. She was the least accessible candidate we have seen on a presidential level in our history, and that includes Joe Biden in 2020. So to hear this campaign complain about the media now just shows you that there are amateurs running this campaign, the same ones that blew through $1 billion in a matter of weeks and even left the campaign in debt. That's really hard to do. Jen O'Malley or David Plouffe or Steph Cutter shouldn't work a major campaign again, but they probably will because that's why they're out there defending themselves as if they were the victims. No, you weren't. And you mentioned Stephanie Cutter. She said on the Pod Save America podcast that the questions Harris got were not informing the voter. So it's not the question that's supposed to inform the voter. It's the candidate. So there's also that. So yesterday we talked about Alec Baldwin. He was at this event in Italy and he criticized all Americans, essentially calling us stupid. Well, not to be outdone, Actress Sharon Stone at the same event in Italy essentially said the reason Donald Trump won is because Americans are not cultured and we don't travel. Watch. My country is in its adolescence. Adolescence is very arrogant. Adolescence thinks it knows everything. We are in our ignorant, arrogant adolescence. We haven't seen this before in our country. So Americans who don't travel, who 80% don't have a passport, who are uneducated, are in their extraordinary naivete. Joe? I saw that with the sound off at first, and I swear to God, I thought that was Hillary Clinton. I'm like, why don't you change your hair a little bit? Yeah, look, when you're wearing like $1 billion of pearl necklace around, what you have like 7 on at that point. Yeah, that may look a little elitist. People don't like being told how to think and what to do. And the bottom line is that Donald Trump supporters were quite informed because they know what inflation is. They know their wages were going down. They know crime was going up their neighborhood. They didn't like 12 million people coming to the country illegally. So, yeah, take 2 seats, Sharon Stone. Basic Instinct came out 32 years ago. That's your reminder that that's the last time she was relevant. Totally. No one really cares what she thinks at this point. Well, I mean, it's one of the most elitist things I've ever heard in my whole entire life. And Democrats' reliance on Hollywood is one of the reasons Kamala Harris lost as well. Comments exactly like the one Sharon Stone just delivered. Joe, got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye, Joe. Happy Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble. Gobble, gobble. I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade. And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.